What's going on? I want to show you guys a really cool new thing that has been discovered within Blood of the Dead. This was found by Juicy Boy on Twitter. I'm going to put a link to both his Twitter as well as his original tweet in the description, but this might be one of the more interesting, mind-boggling, head-scratching Easter eggs that we've seen in Blood of the Dead so far, and I wanted to, one, show this off because this is so cool. Shout out to Juicy Beast and his friend. I think it was Random, his friend's name was, for discovering this. Shout out to them, but I want to discuss this from a storyline perspective because I think it's really interesting. This, though, is a conversation between Samuel Stuhlinger and Richtofen within Blood of the Dead. Check it out.
12,042 bottles of beer on the wall. 12,042 bottles of beer on the wall. 12,042 bottles of beer. You take one down, you pass it around. 12,041 bottles of beer on the wall.
Samuel?
Who in the butts?
This is an Element 115-based illusion. You are in cryostasis back in the lab. How could you... The lighthouse. It must have triggered a chain reaction in the ether.
I think this is interesting to unpack from a storyline perspective, and I want to provide a little bit of context to this conversation. Obviously, Victis is on ice when you enter Blood of the Dead. I mean, you see it right there. You're in Richtofen's lab, and it's one of the first things you'll notice. But from a design perspective, it almost feels like they were forgotten. I mean, they were relegated to the starting room, a starting room which you never have any reason to go back to, that's kind of tucked away in a corner of the map. There's nothing to purchase there. You spawn in the room, and then you leave the room. And then you kind of forget about Victis, and they were also forgotten about in the story. But now they've come back, and it's glad to have them back because they provide an interesting perspective within Blood of the Dead. So when you look at it from an obvious standpoint, Stuhlinger's counting, and he's been counting for a goddamn long time. So long that he's able to count to 12,042. But put that into perspective. In what situation would Stuhlinger be counting for such a long time? The only time Stuhlinger would be counting that high would be if he was on ice, if he's in cryogenic slumber. And I've seen people discuss this, saying, is this Stuhlinger the one that we see in the map on ice? And people are saying, no, it's not him. No, this is most likely Stuhlinger on ice, because why else would he be counting to such a high number? Like, he'd have gotten bored and done something else if he wasn't in cryogenic slumber. So this is clearly Stuhlinger on ice, and this also provides a little bit of insight to what being in cryogenic slumber or on ice is actually like. So while you're on ice, your mind is still at work. It's been described in game as cryogenic slumber, so you'd imagine that your mind is just asleep, and it will feel like only a few seconds. So, you enter ice and then you wake up a few moments later. No, Stuhlinger is there alone with his thoughts for as long as it takes to be unfrozen from the ice. And it's also interesting because it begs the question, is Stuhlinger in purgatory with the rest of the characters? This is a question that I think you can answer with both yes and no. Yes, they are physically there, but no, I don't think they are spiritually there. So perhaps they are bodies without a spirit. This is something that we saw in the case of Richtofen when they reappeared at the Pentagon, and they were just like a body. Richtofen almost seemed dead on arrival. There was no soul in them. Perhaps that's what they're like within Blood of the Dead. But outside of Blood of the Dead, outside of the Alcatraz pocket dimension where they are also on ice, that they are sort of alive and in their thoughts. And if Stuhlinger can contact Richtofen, then this creates a link to Richtofen to the outside world. Now, it's important to remember that Richtofen and Stuhlinger both have ethereal blood. Richtofen's more so than Stuhlinger's, but Stuhlinger also has ether in his blood. Max has said that there might actually be so much ether within Richtofen they can use this to open up a portal.
Richtofen, I now believe that either you have been killed or you are currently trapped in a pocket dimension. Now, worst case, imprisoned by those who mean to undo existence. In the off chance that you are still on the move, I may have a solution. The power of your blood could theoretically be used to open a portal and escape your present reality. If you can direct and focus enough energy through your blood, you may be able to tear a hole through the ether and step through. How much blood will be required, I do not know. But given the concentration of ether in your veins, it's likely best to not overdo it. And there is more. I recall you mentioned something about needing protection for you and your companions. You are right to worry. The blood vials alone preserve aspects of other dimensions, yes. But if you were to ingest them, combine their ether with your own, that would be a formidable insurance policy.
So this is where my mind is running into a really interesting theory I have. Perhaps Stuhlinger contacting Richthofen is the first link to be able to leave Blood of the Dead, and they've established a connection. And then, once they have that connection established, they can use the ether within Richthofen's blood to build a gateway outside of Blood of the Dead, and this is how they will escape the map. That right now is my running theory, and it kind of stems from this conversation right here. Anyway, I hope you guys find this theory interesting. It was an idea I had. I wanted to run with it and share it online. I want to give a shout out to Juicy Beast or Sal Amico and his friend, I think Random is his friend, who actually found this Easter egg. Credit to them. I'm going to put a link to the tweet as well as their Twitter in the description. So shout out to them. This, though, is a really cool find, and I hope we go down this rabbit hole, and this connection between Samuel and Richthofen is what allows our characters to escape Blood of the Dead. We're going to have to wait and see.